let's call the meeting to order. There's no one from the public, so let's start with introductions. Do you want to go from left to right?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nate Sullivan. I've been on the committee for almost a year now. I think in July it'll be 1 year. It's nice to meet the new members.
Hi, I'm Leslie Feener. I work with the University of Iowa Office of Community Engagement, and this is my first meeting.
I'm Andrea Truitt. I work at Summer of the Arts, and I don't know, I've been on this committee a while.
Yeah, I'm Steve Miller. I've also been on the committee for a while. I'm an architect in town.
Rachel Kinker, I'm new as well. I work at the University of Iowa in the Human Subjects Office.
Jeremy Ensley, I've been involved for a little while, and I work on social work.
I'm Ben Clark. I'm an alternate for Ron Konecki.
And I'm Rachel Kilberg-Barley. I'm the public art coordinator. And I'll just remind everyone, when you do speak, we have a lot of soft-spoken people, so just try to speak into the mic so that our audio picks it up.
Great. Yeah, so moving on to officer elections. It's that time of year.
Yes.
Give an intro, Doug?
Sure. So per the Public Art Advisory Committee bylaws, we are to elect a chair and vice chair annually in the February meeting or first meeting feasible thereafter. So here we are. Steve Miller is our current vice chair. Andrea Truitt's our current Steve's our current chair, and Andrea is our current vice chair. Both said they're willing and interested to continue. So if someone wanted to nominate them, you could, and then vote on it. Or if someone else was interested, you can nominate yourselves or others.
I'll go ahead and nominate Steve for the chair role.
Somebody has a second?
Second that.
Second.
Okay.
Can I nominate Andrea for the
Sure.
vice chair?
Mhm.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. And then all in
Any-
favor?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, Steve and Andrea.
Great. Considering the minutes from last meeting from February, we skipped last month. Anyone notice anything in there? I did not. Can we get a motion to approve them?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I think we
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right. Public Art Matching Grant.
Okay, Public Art Matching Grant Award. So thank you all for sending me your scores. I have it on screen. Hopefully everyone can see it okay. I'll try to make it as big as I can. So I've compiled all the scores just anonymously and ranked them. We have $15,500 available to award out. We had $46,505 requested, so we do have some decisions to make. And I also shared with you scorer comments that were also provided with people's scores. So as we discuss, if you want me to read any of those out, I can, but you all should have a copy in front of you as well. So currently, based on the top scores and the amount of funding available, the Open Air Media Festival, Quicker Than a Ray of Light and Then Gone, Summer Groove Dance, This Too Shall Pass, and the Refocus Film Festival would be just over $13,000. Again, we have $15,500 available. A couple of comments I wanted to point out. The Open Air Media Festival and the Open Air Media Festival has received funding for a few years in a row now. So they received $3,500 in 23, $2,600 in 22, $1,950 in 21, and then $2,000 in 2020. Other previous grantees who were also applicants this year. Public Space One is occasionally a partner on applications, but as a lead applicant, they were last awarded funds in 2021 for $600. And then Family Folk Machine was also awarded funding in 2023 for $3,500, and then in 2020 for $1,000. So again, we don't have a policy against awarding repeat applicants, but we do have a policy which just defines how we will handle those and prioritize them. And then I got a couple of questions from folks on 2 of the applications which had some budget discrepancies. So the first was Illuminating Excellence by the Right House of Fashion. I reached out to him and he clarified that the request would be the total project is still $8,500. They're requesting $4,000 through the Public Art Matching Grant, and Downtown District would provide $4,500 in match. I also reached out to Successful Living. I got a bounce back that their executive director who had submitted the application was no longer with them, that it was forwarded to someone else, but I hadn't heard back, so I don't have clarification on that application.
Can I ask, so with the Open Air Media Festival project, did people see enough difference in the previous projects to kind of qualify this as a new project-ish?
Well, I mean, it's an annual
Yeah.
event, you know, so I mean, I think they do a good job of like inviting new artists every year and expanding it and mixing it up. But I mean, I personally don't see a problem funding it, like on a year-to-year basis. If it, I mean, they do a really good job writing the proposals. I think that's why it scores so high, because it just like checks all the boxes really well. But I also, I don't know, I was wondering, because they maxed out the requested amount, I was wondering if maybe we could give them like 3,000 and then 1,000 of it could go towards one of the ones that was a close runner-up that requested, you know, some of those that aren't highlighted have a lot smaller request, and it feels like our money would go farther. So that was kind of one of the things I was thinking about, to help them, you know, it would make a bigger
Right.
difference.
Yeah, so when I used to judge Iowa Arts Council grants, and you had to like give at least 90% of the, but there's no rules with this
Give at
funding.
least 90% of what?
Of what the requested funding was for a project.
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
any like written policy about having to award a certain percentage. It's
Okay.
up to you of how much you want to award
Okay, so
based
I
upon
think
the
that's
request.
a great
Yep.
idea then, to do the 3,000.
I haven't had a chance to read through all these comments. Did anyone have any like specific comments about any of the pieces that they wanted to share? Or any of the proposals?
If it's helpful, we can walk through each of them and circle back, or if you just want time to.
I mean, it seems to me, just looking at our sort of combined scoring here, that there are essentially 7 of them that are quite a bit ahead of the rest of the pack, just in terms of the final sort of total scoring. If that sort of cut off at like 311 for the Writing Garden, it doesn't seem like anything below that, at least in my opinion, based on our sort of collective scoring, would be worth much consideration at this point, given the limited sort of dollar amount that we have available to us. Just the sort of question of how much we want to give to each of them, and then how much little extra wiggle room that gives us to potentially throw some money toward either Illuminating Excellence or that Writing Garden project.
I mean, I like that method. I mean, we've done it, we've certainly done it before as a committee. I feel like it's kind of helpful
Right,
perhaps to, like, create the cutoff and then kind of work from there.
I mean,
but-
I'm sure the group of us could spend hours and hours and hours talking about this whole thing, and we just don't have that. So just making the decision to sort of cut off a certain threshold and then sort of consider what's left after that seems like a way to use our time smartly.
What would the total be for that cutoff of, say, 300 total points?
That puts us at 18,530 if we were to fund those.
We were able to cut 3,000-ish, then
Right.
from these, in total, we could then fund these projects.
In the Illuminating Excellence project, the comments were good, other than kind of confusion about the budget, and that's been answered, so that makes sense to include that.
I agree.
I mean, if we just uniformly kind of made 3,000 the max, that would solve it, right? That would get, if we,
Give 1,000 to Illuminating Excellence and then 750 or something to the Writing Garden, like takeoff.
yeah. If it was 3,000 to open air, 3,000 to this too shall pass, I guess, does that not quite get us there?
We'd still be $30 over.
I think you can spare.
But no, I agree. I mean, that seems like a pretty equitable and fair way of determining what to disperse.
Is there any concern? I mean, I'm a big fan of PS1, but that's a big chunk of it between open air and this too shall pass going to PS1.
Well, I mean, this is a conversation that comes up every time, I think, of no, PS1 or Public Space 1 is not the direct,
Right.
grantee. So, I mean, I don't think we can really take issue with it if we do not have a policy. I mean, I feel like if there is issue to be had, it's a further conversation.
Yeah, no, it's funding work for artists and art that's in our community. The location of that one didn't feel super public to me. The table, it's a cool project, I think, but the argument about like it's a cut through for people,
Is that something we can ask them to reconsider the location, or?
I don't know where would be a better one,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I don't really like to get into like manipulating
Yeah,
the projects,
right.
but I just scored that one a little lower just because of the lack of publicness to it. It's not really that visible to the public, unless you're cutting through private property, which is what their argument was. But I mean, it's a
But
really
then I'm
cool
like, I've seen plenty of
project, too.
people pass through the parking lot,
Yeah.
so I'm like, maybe it'll be the hot new study spot.
Yeah, I think it would be cool too.
Well, and
I
it-
want it to happen.
I'd say, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Porchlight literary thing, that's someone's home. I mean, that's private as well
Yeah.
as anything else.
Front yard, though.
Yeah, it's like private but commercial. It's
Mhm.
it's zoned church-like.
Right. Private group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were there any other ones that are not highlighted that you just feel kind of heartbroken about not giving anything to? The next one on the list for me was a little sad. I think that's a cool idea.
I was also excited about the open voices.
Yeah. But I don't know.
No, it's kind of an interesting just group in general with a lot of music. I feel like in the past we've had a grant request for music-related projects. So it felt very music-heavy in this particular cycle. But I also felt like it was very encouraging to have dance and a little bit more literature come up too. So it was an interesting mix this
Yeah.
year.
I was really pleased with all the quality of all the responses, really.
Rachel, I think I could be misunderstanding, but I think the 4,000 you have there for Illuminating Excellence in the right-hand column, I think we'd wanted that to be 3,000 based on
Okay.
the sort of model that we're talking about right now.
All right. Yep, we can finalize those. So one thing I would invite you to think about is with the Open Air Media Festival, this would be the 5th year in a row that you're funding it. So if you believe that it's really meeting goals of the Public Art Advisory Committee in a really strong way, clearly you've funded it 4 years in a row, 4 years in a row, you could consider moving that to a separate sponsorship item, and whether now or in the future, and then opening up a little more capacity in the public art grant program. On the other hand, if you think it should still continue to be, you think it's worth continuing to be judged against other excellent project ideas, then I would recommend you keep it within the grant program request.
So you're saying we could fund it with other discretionary funds, not the funding from this project specifically?
Yeah. So overall, within your budget, it wouldn't make a difference. You'd still have to find the space for it within your budget. But in order to open up more opportunity in the grant program, if you feel like this one would continue to year after year be outscoring everyone else, and you felt very strongly about supporting it annually.
I think that's it sounds like a smart idea, because I mean, it does tick all the boxes really well of the public, or the matching grant fund, so I think it's been the top scorer like every year almost. But then that sort of takes away a big chunk of potential funds for, the matching grant, which is, if it's an annual event, it feels, I don't know, I've never thought about sponsoring an event on a recurring basis, but I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, it also opens up another can of worms.
I was going to say, so we're kind of getting in trouble with the University of Iowa with our support of Summer of the Arts for so long, and then other organizations were like, why aren't you supporting us? And I wonder if you could think about at some point making it say it's like a maximum 5 years or something, and then you have to take at least 1 year off, and then they seek funding elsewhere possibly in that by year, and maybe that's enough to, I don't know, just a thought.
The can of worms you were talking about is just like that, what other things would
Yeah, I would say the only reason I offer that suggestion in the first place is because it is in a unique spot that 5 years in a row it's scored very highly and you've chosen to fund it. So I think you can make a case that it's really well aligned with the goals of the Public Art Advisory Committee, if you believe it is. However, then, other organizations may also want to seek sponsorship funding outside of the grant program.
At least my sort of instinct is that this year they are an applicant for this grant program. This year we should consider them as an applicant for this grant program. The question of whether we should offer them funding in some other avenue is a great question, and one that I do think we should probably discuss, but I don't know that it's the thing to discuss today.
Certainly before the next matching grant
Yes.
RFP.
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I feel like it's proceed as is, and it does need to be a conversation that should be had,
Right, and especially when we've got 13 line items on our agenda today.
Good point.
Fair.
I like that you're the taskmaster today.
Nice.
I missed two meetings, and I came back and had decided I really needed to get us back on task.
That's great. Any other thoughts? Is Open Voices going to still be a thing if we don't fund it? Any insight into that? Too bad they didn't make the top. 1, 2, 3, 7. Just a question. 'Cause what was I thinking?
Do the applicants get any feedback? Because maybe that's something that could come back a little stronger next year.
Yep, I'll provide feedback to those who weren't funded, as well as those who were, if we have any.
Just looks like we're $280 over. Is that an issue, or are we able to just sort of
I
make
think that's fine.
that work? Okay.
For the future discussion, there's a number of these on here that are annual events, or at least that want to be. So it's almost like, I wonder if we have a separate RFP for kind of one-time things, or versus one that's more of a sponsorship for multiple years or something. I don't know. It'd be two different, divide it.
Yeah.
But for future discussion. Yeah. Okay, well, any further discussion, or should we make a motion on funding those as what's up on the screen there?
I'll make a motion that we approve funding for the program based on the numbers that Rachel has in the spreadsheet here.
So for the record, I'll just read those before we get a second. That would be funding Open Air Media Festival at $3,000, Quicker Than a Ray of Light at $1,725, Summer Groove Dance at $555, This Too Shall Pass at $3,000, the Refocus Film Festival video art installation at $3,000, Illuminating Excellence at $3,000, and the Writing Garden at $1,500.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. I'm sure you will, Rachel, but when you let people know, just tell them thank you for all the strong submissions. It was hard choices.
Yeah, we had a lot of good applicants this year. Okay.
Discuss the Sculptors Showcase Program.
Yeah, so I put a memo in your agenda packet, which I hope you had a chance to review, if I can find it here. So the Sculptor Showcase has been a program that we offer annually. We have 8 concrete pads located throughout the community in which we put out a call for artists to submit their works for our consideration and selection to be located and installed on those 8 concrete pads for 1 year. Last year, some conversation started about lengthening that 1-year display to 2 years, which would do a couple of things. One, it provides those artists an opportunity to showcase their work for longer and in one place, so they aren't burdened with having to come, remove it, transportation costs, everything that goes along with it. It also frees up additional staff capacity annually in the off years not working on that project, as well as budget capacity for you to invest in other things. So, and then finally, it would just, we do ask a lot of other city departments to assist us with that program through installation, removal, maintenance, and promotions within the Parks and Rec Department, Public Works, and Communications. So a little bit less of a ask on them as well in the off years. So as we prepare, typically we've launched this program or issued that call for artists in mid-April. So as we prepare for this next year, wanted to get some direction from you all on how we wanted to move forward with that program. In the memo, I propose transitioning to that 2-year display period, increasing the stipend to $2,000 for 2 years, and then updating the application which was a suggestion from last year, so that those who submit multiple pieces can use one application instead of having to submit multiple applications, and then also placing a limit on no more than 3 pieces being submitted by one artist. So open to discussion, and anything I've suggested here we can change. Ultimately, your decision.
Would it make sense to stagger the 2 years so that every year there are new sculptures? Or does that defeat the purpose of?
It's an option. I would say if we do that, the biggest benefit would be to those artists to the artists. I think your staff and budget capacity issues are still probably there if you stagger it, but definitely an option.
I'm a little bit, I'm torn on the $2,000 for 2 years. I feel like it should be a bit more. I I don't know. I just feel like it should be a little bit more than like, hey, you get $1,500 for 1 year. You know, just like, I mean, it does take it out of circulation in the sense that, is the city open to an artist saying, hey, I sold it in the meantime, I need to come grab this and take it to where, it got sold to? Is it sort of off the market? I guess I don't know if I would say I would want the 2-year kind of stipend to be $2,500, but I don't know, 2,000 feels a little bit chintzy, especially if, and I have not looked at the contract closely, but is there a moratorium on selling those pieces while they are, displayed with the city? So I don't know. It feels a little chintzy in some.
Yeah, well, I can definitely ask the question about selling pieces. I know there are other communities who do that, so I can ask that question if that's of interest to anyone. I did do a little math on possible stipends. So currently, we budget $12,000 annually for those 8 pads. If we increase to $2,000, that would take us to $16,000 total, which would be a $4,000 increase over what we currently have. At $2,250, that would be a $6,000 increase over what we currently budget. And again, this would be only 1 year if we move to the 2 years. So you'd see a higher bump in that budget line in year 1, and then in year 2, all of that would be unallocated funds at this time. $250,000 stipend would be an $8,000 increase over our current budget, and then a $3,000 stipend would be a $12,000 increase over the current budget. So you're looking at anywhere from $16,000 to $24,000 total budget that you would that's what you would allocate and wouldn't have available for other projects. So totally up to you.
And when we set the $1,500 stipend, I feel like we did some cross-checking in other communities that have similar programs, and it was competitive. I mean, it was in the ballpark of other rotating sculpture programs. So I don't know. I mean, to me, most of the work is installing it and taking it down. So the extra $500 for 2 years of visibility, because they have the ability, that visibility is often, I think, what allows it to be sold at the end of it. So I don't know. When I saw the 2,000 for 2 years, it felt like a fair increase, and then it also helps with like having that extra unallocated funds in the off years. But yeah, I mean, I also kind of wondered.
Well, I mean, and here's my question, Rachel. Like, when we sort of looked at the honorarium being comparable to other cities, was it just looking at a 1-year stipend, or was it looking at multiple kinds of iterations of this? So, what does Muscatine, do for a 2-year stipend, or the Quad Cities, or et cetera?
You didn't check into that at all?
I looked up a few. I don't have those numbers in front of me. One community that sticks out in my mind was Dubuque, where they gave an $1,800 stipend for 1 year. So they were a little bit higher than us for 1 year.
When was this $1,500 stipend set?
3 years ago? 4,
Okay,
3?
so not that long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it make sense to have the option included as part of the application, so the artist, like if they are planning on moving it in a shorter amount of time, would have the option to?
I just feel like if it's a big chunk of the reason to move to 2 years is to like lessen the burden on both city staff, but also like allow our committee to focus on a different project that year more. So I don't know if it's like, if we're doing half and half, then it sort of defeats the purpose in my mind. But I mean, if it's clear, I also like, we're making it easier on the artists in that a lot of these people were submitting, filling that whole form out for like 4 different sculptures. Now we're making it easier to just upload 3 as part of the same application. So hopefully that, makes it a little easier. I don't know. But
Well, I mean, I like the two-year format a lot. I do like the idea of, as a committee, being able to use our resources differently as opposed to the same exact thing every year. So I really like the proposed format. I would just be curious to see if there are other cities, what their comparable kind of multi-year stipend might be. I don't think it's particularly cheap, but I'm also a little bit like, I don't know. So I would just be curious to know if a lot of cities do have a 2-year kind of rotation period. I assume there are places that do, but I would just be kind of curious to know what that kind of multi-year stipend might be.
Sure. Just thinking through this, so if others are in agreement, we wouldn't meet again until May, and we would want to get this call out before that. So I wonder if you would be willing to give me either like a minimum stipend that you'd like to see, and then I can have the freedom to do that research and decide upon a fair and comparable stipend based on other cities. And I could also do kind of like an informal email poll as well. But just so we don't hold it up a whole nother month.
I mean, the number 2250 feels like a good middle ground to me, where it's essentially 50% more than the original, for asking for essentially one more year of their time, of the not the artist's time, but time for the piece, without totally throwing our budget for other things, because the idea here is to free up some budget for other projects.
50% more does seem like a good.
Right. We're attracted to those nice round numbers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I'm not, suggesting like, it's a $3,000 stipend all of a sudden, but I feel like the maximum that feels okay for our particular budgeting would be $2,500, but I mean, that's an absolute max, but, I don't know.
So if we say, Rachel, if you do some research and somewhere between 2,000,
2250.
2250 and 2,500.
Yeah.
Big range there,
Sure.
but
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and
fine.
then you have the immense freedom to.
Yeah, that's about a $2,000 difference in the overall budget, so.
And then we can also, see if this impacts the number of applicants we get. I mean, if they,
Sure. Yeah.
if these artists are seeing this number and they're fine with it, then.
Yeah,
you know.
sure. So, no, thank you, Rachel.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, well, I'll proceed with that then. So we'll try to stick to that same timeline and within the next couple of weeks, get that call issued. Probably have a 1-month application period, maybe a little bit longer because at the June meeting is when we'll review those submissions and make decisions. And then the pieces come out in July. There's usually a 1 or 2 week kind of gap while people are coming and removing the old pieces, and then the next folks are coming to install their new ones.
Do we need a motion to change this or accept the memo?
Yeah, because of the budget change, I would have a motion.
How do we phrase that exactly?
You could make a motion to increase the artist honorarium to a maximum of $2,500 for 2 years.
So yeah, I'll motion that we accept the memorandum with the provision that we increase the honorarium by to a maximum of $2,500 for the 2-year program.
Second.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for doing that, Rachel.
No problem.
So what happens if someone wants to remove their piece after a year?
I think it's in the contract. but I
Yeah.
don't-
Okay. Okay.
I did talk to some of the current sculptors who are showcasing, and they said they actually prefer, which is why it's listed as one of the benefits, yeah.
Okay.
All right. There's Lucas Farms neighborhood. What's the update there?
Would you like me to review this one too?
That would be great.
Okay. So, for those of you who are new, we've been working on a project in partnership with the Lucas Farm Neighborhood Association, who would like to highlight their neighborhood history as well as the Meskwaki and Sauk Nations history. So we issued a call for, or a request for qualifications, asking artists who were potentially interested in working on this project to submit their qualifications. We received a few applications, however, after reviewing, the committee did not feel that they were particularly viable applications. We also received feedback that through that proposal that we issued and the request for qualifications, that there may have been some cultural barriers in being able to respond to that in the best way. So we've kind of redirected and reached out through a local contact to the Meskwaki Settlement School. And I made contact with an art teacher there a business teacher who also brought in an art teacher, and then a tech and trades teacher who teaches like welding classes. And they have put together this document, which was included in your agenda packet, of a few ideas that they might have that they could work with the students upon designing as well as executing and installing with the support of those teachers. So I wanted to bring this forward to you and just get your thoughts on these concepts and if they're generally in line with kind of the direction we'd like to go with this project. I did run them past Julie Seidel Johnson, our Parks and Recreation Director, as this will be located in Highland Park. Her only comment was that the first option, the Wikiyabi, I hope I'm saying that correctly, may be difficult to maintain, as well as just, keep it safe and clean, and not invite people to live there or accumulate belongings there. So that was her only comment. I'll just let you all discuss these concepts and generally how you feel.
But am I understanding it correctly that the first option is like an entire kind of structure fully enclosed, and the second option is like it's cut in half?
So my understanding was that the first option, again, these are kind of, so you don't need to take this as a finalized design or anything. They just wanted to offer up a few ideas to say, hey, here's a few things that we could do between the students and the teachers. And if you generally like that process and some of the ideas they came up with, we'd still go through the engagement phase with the neighborhood association to find something that everyone feels good about. So keep that in mind. But based on this letter that they have sent, my understanding is the first one is that housing structure, which would be either fully enclosed or half enclosed, to just kind of demonstrate what those structures were like historically. And then the second option would be more like those two images that are included on the second page. So it would be kind of some sort of wall or fence structure with an artistic component to it.
Well, I don't know. I have to say I really like all of the proposals. It reminds me a lot of a exhibit at the Nature Center where I grew up in California. And as far as it being like difficult to maintain, I'm wondering if it would be something that would be like reconstructed every year as the shelter, or just as needed, like since it's made of, it's made of plant materials. So, and I kind of wonder if like the fence could be part of the exhibit and keeping it sort of like part of what keeps people out of it, or just designates it as like something special to respect. But I also wonder, do we have to pick one of the proposals, or can we fund more than one? Because they all seem very interesting and they go together.
Or are we just saying, like, we like the idea of working with this group and having them engage with the neighborhood to
Yes.
take the next
That would
steps?
be the decision you're making at this point. So if you feel like we want to work with the school, the Meskwaki Settlement School on this project, I would go ahead and get an agreement drafted with them, and then we would do the public engagement phase with the neighborhood association for them to provide feedback. They would come up with a final concept, and then you all would approve that before we gave the green light and issued any funding.
Yeah, I think that process of having the school and work with the neighborhood would be really beneficial, and it's probably will meet the goals of the neighborhood, I think, well, and then just having us kind of sign off on it from public art perspective, I think that sounds great.
No, I was really excited to read about this and having a really good sort of solution and a really good place to start, I think, again. So I was, yay!
Yeah,
While
good
reading
find.
it.
Yeah. Did you, that was your initiative to just reach out to that school?
No, so again, through that request for qualifications, we, a local individual, Alicia Velasquez, had provided some of the feedback about some of those cultural barriers with accessing it. And she suggested that she had a contact here, so that's how we reached out. So really appreciated her suggestion.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yay. It's so great. I'm just so excited to see the update on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay,
Do we
great.
need a
I
motion
think that
to-
gives me what I need.
Do we need a motion to, like, say, create a agreement?
I don't think you need to. You'll have to approve the agreement, so I'll bring that to the May meeting. And perhaps they can probably get started in the meantime, working with the students on ideas or something like that, at least scheduling the public input session. So I think we can still make some progress before that agreement is signed, but
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
Since
awesome
we-
progress.
Since we are agreeing to, and they did submit like different ideas, I mean, when you draft the agreement, are we kind of keeping that we're only picking one item, or are we?
So they'll have to work within the budget.
Okay.
You do bring up a good point. If there's anything you don't want to see or anything you really do want to see, let me know and I'll make sure that we provide that guidance. But otherwise, I think it'll be between them and the neighborhood association to find something that works. And certainly city staff can weigh in if they have questions about its location in the park. But then you guys would have final approval of the concept design.
I don't have any concerns. I think that all the neighbors will have plenty of concerns. So, yeah. Let's see. Can you give us an update on this South District bus stop?
Okay. So, as you all know, we've been, since increasing their budget in September, we've been waiting to get a finalized budget and timeline back from them so that we could amend their original agreement because we're well past the deadlines in that, as well as over budget now at this point. So just in time before the meeting, I got this, which is in front of you, which is the Ray and Ethan's, the artist mentor and the emerging artist final budget that they would propose and then their final timeline. So reminder, and for the new folks on the budget side, this project in its entirety was initially awarded $12,000. $2,600 has been paid out to date, and then I guess it was at the November 2023 meeting, the Public Art Advisory Committee voted to increase the budget not to exceed $24,000. So considering the $2,600 already spent, you would have just over $21,000 available to this for this project. And then their budget here does show below that, so just under $20,000.
But they've been very slow to get back to you.
Yes, I would say, so I started planning monthly check-ins with them since that November date, so we've met once a month since then, and we just got the budget today. So I would say, a little bit slower than we expected, and I think we just need to decide based on these final numbers they gave us, this timeline they gave us, and then our experience working with them so far, if we are ready to amend that agreement and move forward, or if we feel like this project is kind of reaching the end of its life.
Do you know if they've gotten the needed permissions from city staff as far as either Ron or?
Yeah, so with the new location, Ron said they can work with it, so location is fine. And I know they met with a structural engineer today, which is how they got some of these final numbers on the structural engineering costs.
What are your feelings?
I mean, I think I want to have good faith with this, and so then I guess my question is, I'm personally willing to go with this. However, with the caveat that it feels like if things cannot be met by September 30th, I'm wondering if we want to put in some sort of hards. If this cannot be done and there's no, I don't know if somebody's like, well, this particular city person can't get around to it until, October 1st, okay. But if we do want to think about the hard boundary of when to cut.
Yeah, I think we need intermediate deadlines. Like they've laid out the metal model by May 15th and the sculpture is fabricated by August 30th. I don't know. Do we need any further breakdown? What would be reasonable? Like with the engineering and the metal model, if it's not done by May 15th and it's not like they present it to us, and I feel like they need to show some progress before we're just like, definitely $20,000 more,
Sure.
like, feels like they've kind of missed the boat a couple times. So if they do all this and they come in at 20,000 and we get a awesome bus stop for the South District, I think that'd be amazing. So I hope it happens. It just, I think setting some intermediate deadlines to just make sure that it does before we are kind of find ourselves September 30th and there's nothing here. I don't know.
Right.
Would that, I guess, maybe I'm not imagining the same sort of intermediate deadlines as everyone else, but that would not put them in a situation where they're purchasing quite a bit of equipment and then.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, like, if they can kind of prove it with, like, fully engineered with a model by May 15th, whatever our next meeting after that would be. And then that's when they're like, yes, we're moving forward and
So-
go ahead and buy the stuff.
We'd want to see the metal model at I guess, probably our June meeting and say like, okay, this looks like a real thing. You've got a plan. You've got a budget here. Go for it. And that's when our sort of final moment would to make a call on this would be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Legally,
so
what's the-
I think we would need to, if we're going to do that, we would need to pay them in order to purchase the materials for the metal model, and probably, we could pay them that upfront and then perhaps do their labor on pay out the labor on May 15th if it's delivered by then. And then at your June 1 meeting, so then you would only have spent out that amount of money. And then by your June 1 meeting, you can decide if the deliverables were met and you still want to move forward with the project, we would amend the agreement at that meeting. And then, again, with the sculptural fabrication, they're going to probably need that funding in advance to purchase materials, so.
Is there some type of shop drawing process? Is that what this structural engineer is for? I mean, do they have to have drawings with calculations? Is that somewhere in between May 15th and August 30th?
That's what I was wondering too, because it looks like they're using a floor-mounted jib crane. And so I'm sort of imagining it's just like the engineering is more for the footing or the foundations, and then like how to anchor the crane, and then the crane's doing the rest, and the rest of it is more of a non-structural facade or something, is what they did.
That's
they
my
haven't really
understanding, too.
explained that, but.
So then I'm wondering if from here on out, like, you know, at the May meeting, do we want to have a public check-in perhaps? And then I'm wondering if a public, I know you have the monthly meetings with them. I am also wondering if, you know, Ray and Ethan could be available for the May, the May meeting for kind of a more public check-in, I guess, with the committee. Do you feel like that would be helpful, or that's more of things that need to happen behind the scenes? It just feels like, I guess I'm thinking about more extensive monthly check-ins happening, so that there is these very, like, here's your what's going to happen between May 15th and August 30th. Like, can you break that timeline down a little bit more?
Certainly. Yeah, we can invite them to present as much as you want or need. So I do know that the model that comes before the metal model, I think it's a wood model, Ethan did complete that. So that's what he had been working on in the past month. And then he got to a point where they needed, budget approval and a payment in order to do this metal model. So if we ask them to complete the metal model by May 15th, and we want to invite them to the May 2nd meeting, you just need to think about what kind of things we are wanting to get out of that meeting, or if it's best to just wait till June.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm okay waiting till the June meeting. I think as long as it makes sense. I don't know legally and contractually if we need to pay them a stipend for the materials for the model, the engineering. That's going to be a chunk. Like 3,000 is just for engineering, so say like 5,000 of it in their time. So 5,000 of the 20,000. I guess that makes sense, is paid up front to get to that point, and then the rest of it can be paid in installments or whatever between, as long as they're making progress. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would need your approval to sign an amendment to the agreement to complete the metal model. And the budget authority to complete the metal model. And then that would get us through that May 15th kind of deliverable. And then June 1, I'd have an agreement prepared with the rest of the project timeline deliverables and payment schedule. And then you could decide to either to approve that full amendment at that meeting or not.
So today, we are being asked whether we approve the money for them to build this model.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's the minimum that
Do
we
we
would
know
need.
what scale it is? Like, is it
No. So
half scale?
it's a
or-
big one. So they've done like a tabletop model is what was just completed. And then now they do closer to full size, I believe.
Wow, the model is closer to full size?
I think.
Wow.
I could be wrong.
So, Rachel, I was wondering, and this is really about your time on this, with doing the incremental payments and having an amended contract, could we have amendments month by month? So we talked about funding to get the model paid for and the labor. Okay, and then it sounds like then at the June meeting, it would be kind of a check-in from the artists, but then also at that time, we would need to approve the amendments to the contract in the payment schedule for the rest of the project, correct?
Yeah, so if I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, I was just wondering, like, would it be more helpful in terms of accountability, and is this even possible if, like, there's, like, a month-by-month kind of payment process or payment amendment to that contract?
Yeah, so I don't think you would need to do repeated amendments. I think
Okay.
you would just do a amendment with a really aggressive, termination clause of some kind.
Okay.
If this is not being met,
Okay.
the contract's done, or however
Okay.
you want to structure
Sure,
that.
because I want to make sure the labor is paid for and the work and the materials are paid for, but there is where is the hard stop date for the committee. And I was just wondering if, a little bit more work, but also, would motivate the project along.
Yeah.
They seem to be kind of deadline driven.
Yes, so,
Getting the budget.
so that was my only question. If you're just like, that's a bureaucratic nightmare for me, no, that's fine. Like, I
Yep.
don't want to
Yeah.
add to
Yeah.
that.
We can do that.
I'm not even sure if that's like helpful. What are other people's opinions on that? I don't know.
Do you have an estimate of what they were saying this model would cost them to build?
No, I'm sorry, I got it. I just.
That's, I mean, yeah, if they didn't provide that, then you don't
Yeah.
have that, yeah, of course. Can we like approve maybe up to X number of dollars for that? And if they can do it for less than that, we approve it and then want to see it for our June meeting? Is that allowed? Like, we don't want this to blow, half this money on this model. Like, we want to see something for less than that, I assume. We say like 5,000, I mean, I think Steve, you floated that number, that seems reasonable to me. Like, if they can build this model for under 5,000 and then have it for us to, I guess maybe not bring it actually in here, but see it for our June 1st meeting, or whatever that day is in June.
Should bring it here.
I mean, if they can bring it here, I would love to see that, just, put it on a cart and reel it up, but I'm not sure how feasible that is, but seeing some evidence that it exists for our June meeting seems reasonable to me.
There could be a subset of people that visit to see it in person between now and then.
I forget, are they not showing up for the monthly meetings, or you are having monthly meetings with them? It's just they haven't made progress?
Yes, we are having them. I would say they've been just, there's not much to update because they just hadn't made the progress, so they haven't been that productive.
I guess maybe just consult with the city attorney and like whatever the right clauses need to be. I think you understand the committee's intent that like there are some clauses in there, if they're not making progress, we can terminate it, but whatever you and the attorney feel like
Yeah,
are
so I think what I
appropriate.
just need is authority to sign a first amendment that would get us through that May 15th deadline. So to fund the metal model and then the artist labor for the metal model. And then assuming and then the amendment would, write in if the model's not delivered by May 15th, then, the contract terminates. And if it is received by May 15th, then at our June meeting, I would bring an amendment to, for the rest of the project. Does that make sense?
So today we need a motion to approve the money for this model, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And for me to sign an amendment to the
Yes.
agreement. Yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Just slid in by the deadline.
Thanks. I know it's been too long.
I will say, thanks to Andrea, Ethan did participate in a public art workshop that our office
Oh, great.
held.
That's
And
good.
he was very interested and animated about the project and
I was so
wanting
glad you
to
followed up.
yes,
I really
yeah,
was. I was
yeah.
glad to hear that.
Great. Okay. Last major item on our agenda is the Outreach and Engagement Subcommittee update. Rachel has a draft agenda in here we don't have a date yet, though, right? This is just the agenda?
So I was going to propose Thursday, May 23rd. The subcommittee had talked about a Thursday working well, and that one works particularly well for me. If there's others who it doesn't, we can look at another date.
It's my daughter's orchestra concert.
Okay.
What night is that? I mean, what time of day were you thinking?
So we have 6 to probably 7:30 on our agenda here.
Yeah, I'd be in deep trouble.
Okay.
So,
Well, so one thing we need to decide today, in order to not make it a public meeting, only 4 committee members would be able to attend. So maybe we can decide who's interested in attending. Steve, Jeremy, and Anita have been on the subcommittee, so perhaps we could offer it up to them first. And if they're not available or not interested, then others who are interested. And then if we do it that way, then maybe it's a little bit easier to find a date. Does that sound like a plan?
I am still interested.
Steve?
We can't do that date, but
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'd like to go. Is, where are the speakers coming from? Are they?
So those we've tentatively identified would be coming from Des Moines.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can ask Anita, was there anyone else who's interested in attending that? 1 to 2 more, and
I mean, I would not be interested, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to plant my flag and say I definitely want to be one of them there.
okay. Okay, well, that's okay. Then I can just work with those who are planting their flags, and then whoever else is available, as long as we don't have more than 4, we'll just go with that. Okay, so we got that cleared up. I'll let you take the reins back, Steve.
are there any comments on the agenda? And Jeremy provided a bunch of good questions, and Rachel kind of condensed it into the prompts there at the bottom. Can you remind us who the potential speakers are? Which 2 people?
Yeah, I can give some general background on this. So, a subcommittee formed to hold a arts stakeholder annual meeting is kind of what we're calling it, with 2 goals, really. One, to address more of the outreach and engagement efforts that were in our strategic plan that we felt like we needed to do more of. And then 2, thinking about our updated strategic plan as we're entering the final year of our current one. This would kind of be, in my mind, the first public engagement touch point. So we would bring those identified, targeted stakeholders together, get their feedback on public art in Iowa City and where they think our focus should be. And then we'd probably have other public engagement touch points before we decide upon a final strategic plan. So whether that's additional events or a survey or a combination of those things. But that's kind of the background on why we're pulling this group together. So as part of this agenda, the subcommittee thought it would be great to bring in a guest speaker who could just add some interest to the event, as well as maybe inspire discussion among those who are attending. So I reached out per Anita's suggestion to the Iowa Arts Council, and David Schmitz, who's the director there, was one recommendation, and then Alexa McCarthy, I believe, was the other name, who's the director of the Greater Des Moines, Iowa Public Art Foundation. I don't have the title exactly correct.
So what I will say, and this is just an FYI, a lot of the arts administrators, there have been like regional art summits happening with the Iowa Arts Council, so I feel like there has been FaceTime with David Schmitz and the Iowa Arts Council staff, and then a lot of the Iowa City arts organizations are in regular contact. So what I will say, I don't believe I will be attending as a stakeholder or as a member, just because I'm in a sticky position. But from a variety perspective, perhaps the Des Moines Public Art, the Alexa McCarthy might be a little bit more novel, but that's my own personal opinion. Steve, I mean, you were at the Regional
that was-
Arts Summit as well, so I mean, you know that a lot of the Iowa City arts organizations were there. So that would be my only comment on the guest speaker. But Leslie, you know the arts organizations, you work with them here in town, the Iowa Arts Council. Do you have,
I agree. I mean, David Schmitz is great, but yeah, there might be a little saturation there, and like something, someone new would be good.
I was feeling the same way.
Okay. Well, I'll work with her and see if she's available on the date we decide, or if others have suggestions, especially our new members who haven't been involved. If you know of someone you'd like to suggest, let me know.
The only other comment I had about the agenda is that it felt a little rushed, maybe, to do like I don't know, if it could expand just a little bit. It feels like a lot to fit in an
Yeah.
hour and 15 minutes. Like, I don't know how long the speaker would want to speak for, but maybe that's like the whole 20 minutes, and welcome and brief introductions would take 10 on its own or something, and then
But then if Nate comes and can be the taskmaster, perhaps an hour and 15 is enough. But no, I
You have to
noticed
be
that
there.
as well.
Standing at the back of the room with a stopwatch.
But no, I was kind of thinking about that too, Steve. I was like, I don't know, people start chatting with the intros, and then before you know it, an hour and 15 is, you know.
we haven't even started. It's 7 o'clock.
Well, right, and do wanting to make sure that everybody has those really good conversations and, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. What we could do too is start the actual welcome at 6 p.m. and just invite folks to come starting at 5. You know, if they're getting off work, they can just come at any time for the mingling and chatting with others.
And
That's
then
an
when you
option.
talk with the speaker, just find out how long
Yeah.
she would want to talk for. But I think I'm really excited about this next step. So,
Yeah, I was hoping that we could extend the discussion time a little bit more.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
But I did like your idea, Rachel, of just starting at 5 with the mingling and appetizers, and then it is that I go from work to the event and then home versus that kind of,
Yeah.
perhaps an odd,
that's
you
smart.
know,
Yeah.
gap.
Okay.
And then it doesn't have to go, 8, 8:30, et cetera. It's,
Yeah, that opens some space up for us. Okay.
Good thought. And we're doing that at Merge? Is that right?
Unfortunately, Merge is beginning some renovations, so they're not available. So we'll have to find a different location. I know the subcommittee had suggested a few other locations, so I can vet those.
Okay. Great. Good work on that. Thank you. Any other staff updates?
I don't think so, unless anyone has questions. I shared the X Marks the Arts, and a couple of you were there. Thank you for coming. The X Marks the Arts launch, which will be a marketing campaign that the downtown district is leading, along with a committee of all the downtown arts venues and a couple of others as well. So I already sent that information out to you, but I encourage you to sign up and follow along with what they're doing. The city is also going to be giving them a $10,000 sponsorship for some of those marketing efforts. So that'll be good. And then for the May meeting, I will not unfortunately be able to attend, but I'll make sure we have all this stuff prepped and ready to go. I may have our assistant city attorney be the one who sits in for me, so we'll hold at the same time, same date. She'll sit in for me, and then Ron and Julie will be here as staff as well to help. But I know you guys will be in good hands, and I apologize I can't be here. I have no other announcements unless people had questions about anything.
Any other new or old business from anyone? No?
How was the Arts Summit, the Iowa Arts?
I mean, I think it's helpful that they're doing the regional ones first, and then there will be, in June, the statewide summit. I think it was helpful. It was a little bit, I think I need to change up my strategy because there are I learned that budgets for a lot of the arts organizations here in town tend to be on the same level. So I saw a lot of my colleagues in the same room. So, I was like, oh, it feels like other meetings I have, with them regularly. So I'm curious about Steve, though.
There was a weird, I don't know why I went. I mean, I kind of went as curious about public art. Actually, it was interesting. The group I was in did have the administrator for the Cedar Rapids Public Art in there, so that was cool to be able to talk with her and learn a little bit more about their program. So I'd say that was kind of the biggest
Great.
takeaway for me was getting some exposure to how Cedar Rapids does it. But yeah, it was not running an arts organization. It felt a little out of place, but
I thought it
still
was great that
interesting.
you came. I mean, I really thought that was interesting. Leslie, did anybody from your office? I didn't see anybody, but didn't know.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I went, but it was, yeah. Anyways, all right, we don't have Ron here to motion to adjourn, so we need someone to.
Well,
You
Ron
wanna-
usually motions.
motion to adjourn?
Yeah. Need a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.